Okay, right. So we put it onto um, live streaming, which is very handy. And now we're going to go back to there. Okay, great. So, right, today, let's start off with our tefillah and see how that goes. Right. Okay. No, I have to do share, don't I? Forgot. Share. Right. ריבון עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אב הרחמן והסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, בקידה בשתחוויה, כשקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומחיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה, על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לביניך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח לפני כיסא כבודך כרך ניחוח, ותרצל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודיך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבל ניכשל בדברים אלו. ובזכותם תראיננו במה שאנו לומדים, כמה המנעים זמירות בישראל, גל עיני והביטה נפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לו רצון אמרי פי, ויגר ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגורלי. Amen, כן יהי רצון. So you want to dedicate the learning Lizchut Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It's his Hilulah tonight. That's like Omer. And to say thank you for all the incredible wisdom and learning that he brought to us, which is still coming to us through the centuries. It's amazing. Okay, right then. Now, so when I was thinking this morning about what we were going to study today, because the Zohar is just so immense. There's so many possibilities. What actually opened for me was a piece that we've actually learnt before, some of us, and that was this week's Parshat is Emor. Okay, so this week's Parshat is Emor, and this week's Parshat actually deals with all the festivals. It's like the festival Parshat. So I thought, okay, we are in the Omer and we're heading up for Shavuot. So what actually opened for me was the piece that I've actually learnt with some of you already, which is that piece on the Omer and the meaning of the Omer and why we have the Omer, counting the Omer and coming to Shavuot. And there's a lot there, actually. There's about 4 articles there. But I actually thought we'll start again from the beginning. And the reason why I don't mind doing things again is because whenever you hear something a second time, you hear it differently. You always hear it something differently the second time, and also because it's always when we learn, it's sort of like an interaction between ourselves, the soul, and the material. And since our soul, we're always changing all the time, we hear different things. So I thought if that's what came, then that's what we're going to do. Okay. So yeah, that's what I'd like to do. So this is, I've got to share my screen again. Here we go. Screen. Who's coming in? Who's that? Don't know who that is. Well, I don't know who that is. So I'm sorry about that. I can't come in. Right. Now then. Ma'amah Sfirat Omer v'Chag HaShavuot. Okay. So I do share. How do I do share? I've forgotten. Oh, I do share over there. Right, that could be the reason. Right, okay. Does anybody here know somebody called Vijak?
Not me.
Okay. So I don't know who that is. So, okay. All right, I'll figure that one out afterwards. All right. Ma'amar Sfirat HaOmer v'Chag HaShavuot. So let's start off with the actual Aramaic. It's up here somewhere. Where is it? Here we are, Kuf Mem Hey. Let me make it a little bit smaller so we can actually, there we go. וביום הביקורים, הבקריבכם מנחה חדשה להשם, בשבועותיכם מקרא קודש יהיה לכם. רבי שמעון פתח, אז ירננו עצי היער מלפני השם, כי בא לשפוט את הארץ. זכר חוקיהם דאינון דמשתדלי באורייתא, יממה ולילה, דידעין אורחי דקודשא בריך הוא, והתאחדן בשמי, ואילינון דלא משתדלי באורייתא, דהלית לא נחולקא בשמה קדישא, ולא התאחדן בי, ולא בהי עולמה, ולא בעלמא דעתי, מן דזכי בהי עולמה, זכי בעלמא דעתי, דהי תנינן דובב שפתי שנים, אף על גב דאינון בהו עולמה שפטותיהו, והשם תמן אורייתא. Oh, wait a minute, 2 more people want to come in. Okay. Right. Okay. Oh, that's all. Oh, it's Vita. All right, lovely. Okay, very good. Wonderful. Lovely to see you. Right. Now, where am I? I've got lost again. Kuf Mem Hayes. Kuf Mem Hayes below. Oh, I see. Right, there we go. Ubiyama Bikurim, and on the Bikurim, the day of when we bring the first offering. So, in fact, the sacrifice of bringing the first offerings, you know, the first born of the animals, the first fruits that ripen. It's a special offering called the Bikurim. That begins on Shavuot. And it goes through after that, I think, up till Sukkot. So, I mean, you can bring it any time after that. But since it begins on Shavuot, Shavuot is also called the day of the Bikurim. Bakrivachem mincha, when you offer up a new offering, okay, to the Lord. Mincha is a meal offering. Rabbi Shimon opened his discourse. Az yoananu atzayah milifnei Hashem. Then the trees of the forest will jubilate before God. Ashrei chelkam shel otam oskim b'Torah yom v'layla. Happy is the portion of those who are occupying themselves with practicing, studying the Torah. Now, the Hebrew says day and night, okay? But what that really means is it's also okay, the physical thing that we should be having our minds on Torah. Obviously, we've got to eat and drink and do the housework and earn our livings and whatever else we need to do, okay? But it means don't separate from the Torah. Like bring the application of the Torah into our everyday life, okay? So you're osek b'Torah. The word osek means practice, like being involved with. All right. Okay. So you've got the time of the day. Now you've got the physical day, but you've also got the word day in Kabbalah means when things are going well for you, when God's light is shining for you. And the night is also, of course, the physical night, but it's also when things are going hard and it's difficult, and we don't know who we are, we don't know what we're meant to be doing, we don't know what's going on, or something difficult is happening in our lives. So we have day and night, when things are going well and when things are going with difficulty. Okay? Shiodim dakeh kadosh baruch hu, who know the ways of the Holy Blessed One, umit achdim b'shmo, and unite with his name. Oy le'elu she'einam oskim b'Torah. Woe to those who are not practicing the Torah. She'ein lehem chelik b'shem hakadosh, because they don't have a portion in God's holy name. Ve'einam mitachdim bo, and don't unite with it. What does it mean, woe to those who are not practicing the Torah, who don't have a portion in God's holy name? Okay, God loves all of us. Okay, whether we study the Torah or we don't study the Torah. That's not the point. He loves all the created beings. Okay, so what does it mean they don't have a portion in God's holy name? The word name relates to the vessel, relates to the malchut. Okay, so we need to create that desire, that place, if you like, to bring through that light. And the word holiness relates to the will to give. Okay, the will which is in affinitive form with the Creator. All right. So woe to those who are not practicing the Torah or occupying themselves with the Torah. What does it really mean? It means that they're not making that vessel which can bring them to holiness. Okay. And the Torah is the wisdom. That's what it really is. It's that link between ourselves and God. If you think about that tremendous saying in the Zohar, then the Torah, the Holy Blessed One, and the soul are one. Okay? Well, we can't know the Holy Blessed One directly, and we can't know the soul directly. But we can certainly learn Torah, and we can certainly occupy ourselves with its wisdom. And when I mean occupy ourselves, I mean you can read one sentence, okay? One sentence, which means something to you, okay? And then think about it, apply it, work with it, for the whole of that day. Yeah? Let me just get, there we go, put that in. All right? So there's lots of ways that we can unite with the Torah. But if we need to make that desire, we need to build that vessel within us. Those who don't unite with it, are not uniting with it either in this world or in the next world. Now, this world is our present state of consciousness, which can be quite lowly, because the connotation of this world is our will to receive for ourselves alone. And Olam Haba, the next world, does not necessarily mean after we die. It means our next consciousness, okay? Our next level of consciousness, okay? All right? Whereas whoever merits to the Torah in his present level of consciousness, in this world, in this conscious level that he's in, merits in the next level of consciousness. Okay? And this is what we've learned. The lips of the sleepers are moving. Even are in that world, I suppose it means the next world. Their lips are speaking Torah. What they merited in this world. This world is basically the consciousness of the will to receive for itself alone. Okay, so if we can learn Torah, all right, in our present state of our will to receive for ourselves alone, then hopefully our next state will be that we actually come more to the essence of the Torah, which is the Torah for its own sake. Okay? All right? So if we manage to apply it in our lowly state now, then we will merit to apply it in our next state when we will be coming more towards the essence of the Torah. Okay. Wonderful. What a nice way to learn. What a nice thing to learn on Lag BaOmer when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai brought down the inner aspect of the Torah. Lag BaOmer, I mean, why is this big celebration? Is because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, on the day he died, he gave over Torah which had never been heard before. So that is the real reason for the celebration. Okay. Ta'chazi, ad hashta, הקריבו ישראל תבואת הארץ, תבואת הארץ ודאי, והתעסקו בי, והתקשרו בו קישורה. ואף על גב דדינה השתכח, דינה בשלום השתכח בי, והקריבו שעורים. בגין דאיו קדמה בכל שעה תבואה, ומין קדמה מתקרבה, ולא מההוא דמתאחר, דאחידו קדמאה. ישראל התאחדו בי בקודשא בריך הוא. הכהו אמר קודשא בריך הוא, אנא יהיבית, לכו מן במדברה, מהו עתה דקרי שמיים, דכתיב הנני ממציא לכם לחם מן השמיים, ואתון מקריבין כמי שעורים. Right. Come and see. בואו ראה. עד עתה דהיינו בפסח, so this is talking about like the counting of the Omer starts on, as you know, on the second day of Pesach. Okay, so we've got Seder night, and you've got the first day of Pesach, and then the very first night afterwards, we start to count the Omer. Now, what actually is the Omer? The Omer is a sheaf of barley. Okay, so it's they would go out into the fields and they would cut a sheaf of barley. Okay, Hikrivu Yisrael Tvuat Haaretz. Israel would offer up the first produce of the land, the Hainu HaOmer. If we've got Nisan is the beginning of the year, then the barley is the time of the barley harvest. That was the first produce, the Omer. Tvuat Haaretz. So the produce of the land, now, as we know, we've got the branches in this world, and we've got the roots in the higher worlds. Okay, so everything that exists in this physical world has its spiritual root in the higher worlds. All right, so haaretz, the land, what is the haaretz, the physical land? It's the expression of desire. Okay. So this desire is the illumination of the Malchut, because the Malchut is the real vessel, okay? So there's lots of names for the Malchut. So we've got Haaretz, the land. We've also got the word name. Shem is also the Malchut. There's lots of names for the Malchut, words which designate the Malchut, because it appears in so many different ways, okay? So the illumination of the Malchut, which is also called the land, v'nitaskuba, and they would deal with this amount of barley, v'nitkashu b'keshahu, and then become connected with this connection. V'afa pishu nitzad din. Now, even though that barley is actually represents judgments, okay. Now I got ready. Before we began, a nice picture. Penny asked a question just before we go to the picture. What would be our next level of consciousness after this one? Whatever is your next step. Okay? So, I mean, whatever your next consciousness is. Now, if we're talking generally, okay, so let's say the general default consciousness in the world is the will to receive yourself alone. Okay? So the next step up might be, okay, the will to give for the sake of receiving. All right, that's definitely a next step up. Instead of just thinking about what I can get, you begin to think about how to give. But that's still not holiness yet, because when we're doing giving in order to get something, our main purpose is still to receive. So then if you wanted to get from the will to receive and to become a giver, that would be the will to give for the sake of giving. So that would be the next real step. Okay, but you have to go step by step. You can't skip stages. So we can't go from our will to receive for ourselves alone to the will to give, to the will to give for the sake of giving. You have to go every step. So the will to receive for oneself alone, the next step might be the will to give for the sake of receiving, okay, which is called Torah shelo lishma, Torah which is not for its own sake, okay? And then the next step after that would be giving for the sake of giving, which is already, by the way, considered as being a tzaddik. Somebody gets to giving for the sake of giving is already a tzaddik, okay? And then finally, at the end of the tikkun, we get to the will to receive for the sake of giving, which is the ultimate. Now, I would suggest that to look at it like this, that we're all incarnated many, many times, okay? Loads and loads and loads of times. We've all incarnated many times. So we've probably got parts of ourselves which are already at the end of the tikkun, okay? Where we're complete tzaddikim. But we don't need to know about those because they're done. They're stored away for us in an area which the Zohar calls it Atik Yomin. All right, so it's all stored away for us, and we'll become acquainted with that at the end of all the tikkun. Because why don't we need to know about that? Because it's not a place of work. We need to know about what we haven't managed to do yet. Okay? All right, so that's why we all feel incomplete and we're all struggling, because that's the place we need to work on. There's no point working on aspects that we're already finished. Okay, so we can all only see all, the negative, the difficult bits. All right, so it's hard to know where any of us really are. Okay, ultimately. Okay, because all you can see is the bits you haven't done. So I would suggest that probably all of us have got parts of ourselves which are a tzaddik, parts of ourselves which are a beinoni, which are in the middle somewhere, and parts of ourselves which are completely immature, which we haven't begun to work on. And this makes the word tzibur, okay, meaning congregation. Tzaddik, beinoni, v'rasha. So that every single person is made up of all elements, okay? I think that's the most likely situation. Okay.
You did it.
That's great. It was a great question. I like that question. All right. Okay, so yes, and I was going to show the picture of the barley. Now, why did I want the picture of the barley? Let me just see if I do stop share for a second. And let's get my picture of barley. Barley, here we go. Barley. And do share. There, can you see that nice picture? Oh, there you go. That's really a lovely picture of barley. Now, why did I want to actually look at the barley? Because there's it subscribes the issue of judgment to barley. Okay, and in fact, the Zohar tells us there's only two meal offerings which were made out of barley. One was the Omer offering, and one was the Sotah offering for if there was a jealous husband and he wasn't sure if his wife had betrayed him or not, there was a different offering like that. It was a Sotah offering. And those are the two times only that barley is used. And the term in Hebrew for barley is se'orah. Okay, now se'orah is from the word hairy, sa'ir, okay, meaning hairy, all right? And the Kabbalah definitely associates the issue of hairiness, okay, sa'or, sa'ir. I mean, like for example, Esau was Ish Sa'ir, who was a hairy man, okay? The he-goat, which was offered up for sin offerings on Yom Kippur, was called a sa'ir. Okay, and the sa'ir l'Azazel, a he-goat was taken off to one for Hashem and one for Azazel, and that's a very hairy animal. So the whole idea of hair, like I said, every physical element in this world has its spiritual root. Okay, so therefore barley, because it's got hair, it's the sin, which is for hair, Sa'ir or Se'or, okay, changes with the samach, which means stormy, okay, because when there's judgments, there's storms, it's difficult, a person's tossed away in different directions, not quite sure what to do, suffering, okay. So Se'orah is, the barley is related to judgment. And that's why, go back a moment to our Zohar. Oh, here we go. Stop share and do. It says the barley is judgment because, I mean, you can see, like you said, that everything physical in this world is got its spiritual root. So it says that this barley was aspect of judgment. Okay. Nevertheless, this judgment, it says, is in peace. Okay. In other words, you're talking about doing it on Pesach. There's happiness on Pesach, and you're offering up this offering. So you're offering up the barley, all right? And that's what brings about the peace. I'm going to find out more about that in a minute. V'krivu se'orim. So why did they offer up the barley? Mishum shu harishon, because it was the first l'kol sha'ah hatvuot of all the other produce. Umin harishon makrivim, and we need to offer up from the first. V'lo me'otan shemitachot, and not from those which come later. Ki ha'achiza rishona, because the first connection, Yisrael nit'achazu b'kadosh baruch hu, kanu. This is the first connection with which Israel is connecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's a very interesting statement. Why is it the first connection with which Israel is connecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Remember that the first connection that Israel as a people has with HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually is in a place of judgment. They were in Egypt, okay? They were suffering slavery. And it was from that slavery, from that connection with their will to receive for himself alone, from the connection with the Egypt within, okay, that's from there we begin to build the vessel with which to long for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all right? Because there's a very important principle in Kabbalah, which is Yitaron ha'or sheba me'achoshech, which is that the light, when it emerges from the dark, shines brighter. Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Holy Blessed One said, Ani noten lechem man bamidbar, mimakom hu hanikra shamayim. I'm giving you manna in the wilderness from that spiritual place which is called Shamayim, which is Zer Anpin. Shekatuv hineni mamtir lechem lechem min hashamayim. I'm raining down for you bread from heaven. Vatem makrivim lefanai se'orim. And you need to offer up before me the offering of the barley, shu bechinat hamalchut, which is the aspect of the vessel. Okay? So let's figure out now, with the help of Rabbi Ashlag, what all this is actually about. Bior hadvarim, explanation. Afal pi shebelel Pesach haya malchut bezivug panim bepanim im zer anpin betachlit hagadlut. הרי היה מבחינת התערותא דלאלה בלבד, כדי להוציא ישראל ממצרים. Explanation. Even though on the night of Pesach, the malchut, the vessel, our desire, okay, is actually uniting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the Holy Blessed One, but tachlit hagadlut, in the ultimate of joy, okay, and the ultimate of reception of the light of God. It was only from the fact that God himself caused that. Awakening from above, it's called. In order to take Israel out of Egypt, in order to take the soul out of the clutch of the will to receive oneself alone. שזה so דילג על הקץ, and that's the inner meaning of God jumped to the end. Okay, like he didn't, the children of Israel had sunk down to the 49th level of uncleanness. But there was a fear that the children of Israel would just become assimilated in Egypt, all right? Or you can think of it in terms of our inner meanings, all right? So that sometimes we are stuck, okay? We're stuck with something. And then God opens up the consciousness and suddenly we can see our way forwards, all right? Now, Rabbi Ashad talks about this, and he says there's a very important principle in the Talmud which says, Yagati veloma, no, let me say this again. Yagati umatzati ta'amin. I labored and I found, believe it, okay? I labored and basically I found, meaning God gave it to me, believe it. Lo yagati v'matzati al ta'amin. I didn't labor, but I found it. Don't believe it. In other words, if we didn't do the work and God sends his light, and there is a situation like that, okay, don't believe it. Don't trust in that because it'll disappear. If we haven't actually made the vessel, okay, and got that vessel ready, then, and we have to do it from ourselves, all right, then the light that we got will disappear, okay? So what we need to do is now, so he said, it's like God is giving it to us on trust, okay, that high consciousness, that we will then build the vessels afterwards, all right? So it's usually, we say we need to build the vessels first, we need to do the labor, and then we will get the light, okay? But sometimes, for different purposes that God has, sometimes he will give us the light first, as kind of like a push forwards, but then we have to start swimming and we have to start making our own efforts, okay, to get ourselves out of the river. Okay? So, and this is why he says, Mishum ze, and for this reason, lo hayu hamochin ha'elu b'nei kiyum. This light that we receive on Leil Seder can't last. Why? Because we haven't done the work yet. All right? V'achal el Pesach, so after the night of Pesach, Tekev Chazar Malchut L'Katnuta, the Malchut, the vessel goes back to its immature state, not in order to stay immature, but Kedei Livnota, but to build it again, Misod Itaruta de Le'ela, from the inner meaning of awakening from below, Al Yedei Yisrael, through Israel. ומתוך שהמלכות היא בעיקר מבחינת קו שמאל, and since the malchut, which is our foundation, what we really which we are expressing, the malchut is all the souls of Israel, okay, and its main aspect is the vessels of receiving, the left-hand line. על כן מצווה ראשונה של הקרבת מנחת העומר, מנחת השעורים. Therefore, its first mitzvah, okay, right after receiving this great light, we receive it Leila Seder, it stays there for the whole of the first day, and then that's it. We make Havdalah, it's gone, okay? So what do? We offer up our vessels of receiving, okay? We said we're going to offer up the barley, all right? So we're going to offer up that first produce, which is the barley. We offer up the meal offering of the Omer, the offering of the barley. Shese'orim usod ha'arat ha'malchut mibchinat kav small. And the se'orim is like we saw is hairy, okay, which hints at judgments. And what is judgment? It's the illumination of the malchut, of the left-hand line, but it hasn't done its work yet. Okay, it hasn't transformed yet from the will to receive to the will to give. Okay, therefore, that's why it's attracting dinim. That's why it's attracting judgments, because it's still just using its will to receive. Okay? So it wants to receive light, but it does not yet got that aspect of giving, which is the idea of the barley, okay? That the barley is all these hairs, okay, which is judgments. It's the feed for the animal side of ourselves, the feed of the animals. Barley was what they fed animals with, and it's feed for animals. Behemut nimshachot mismol. And our animal side comes from our will to receive, which is our left-hand line. Ela basod Omer hatnufa. What did they actually do when they did the barley harvest? They took the harvest, okay, they took the sheaf from the field, and then they went with it to the temple, okay, and they actually, you know, sorted out, you know, the grains from the chaff, and then they roasted the grains, and then they would take it and wave it, all right? Okay, so the priest would wave it, would take maybe he took the whole sheaf, I can't remember now. I've sort of got a bit muddled up. Did they, I think maybe, you know, I'm wrong. I think they took the sheaf and the priest would wave it first, and then they dealt with it and made it into a meal offering. Okay, I think that was right. In any case, the most important bit was they would take the sheaf and wave it. Okay, give it to the priest, and he would wave it from below to above. Okay, so that action meant that we don't want to receive that our pleasures, our desires for ourselves alone. We want to do the opposite. We want to give. Okay, so it's taking that will to receive and raising it up. Okay, and that was the main aspect. All right, that they would give it to the priest and the priest would wave it, meaning tanufa. Doesn't mean waving like that. It means wave. Tanufa it's like the same idea as a crane, you know, something which raises something up that way. Okay, so wave it, meaning calling wave offering means raising it up. Okay, that's what it means. All right, and subsequently, by then counting the Omer, all right, counting the days, all right, we now draw towards the Malchut 7 Sfirot, Chesed, Gevur, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, from the Zerampin, which is the higher level, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and each one of which is made up of 7 Sfirot, of 7 Sfirot, in which way we're able to attain a equivalent level. Okay, we can now then come up to the aspect of transformation. So the idea is that gradually through these days of counting the Omer, we are building the vessels, okay, with which we can come to the 50th day, which is the light of Shavuot. Sorry, which is the festival of Shavuot. It's very interesting that of all the festivals, only Shavuot doesn't have an actual date, you know. We get the date of Shavuot by counting the 50th day, 50 days. Okay, so from the day of offering up the Omer, that's day 1, we get 40, you know, we count 7 times 7, that's 49. And then the 50th day is Shavuot. All right, so here you can actually see this process of starting with our will to receive ourselves alone and gradually transforming our vessels step by step. We can get to Shavuot. Now, there's lots of different ways of looking at these 49 days, okay? There's lots of different systems. But I was listening to Rabbi Gottlieb the other day, and I have to say what he said made a lot of sense to me and something that I also feel for myself. I personally do not have the capacity to work on all these different midot, every day. I just don't have it. I can't work on the, uh, I don't know, Netzach Shebenetzach or whatever it happens to be, or Yesod of whatever. I just can't do it. Okay, I can't do all these different sfirot, even if I understood what they were. Okay, I have no idea what these gradations actually mean in practical terms. But what I can say is look inside and say, well, I haven't got chesed to the level I feel is I would like. Chesed meaning giving. I haven't got gevura to be able to overcome my will to receive to the place I would, I feel is appropriate, whatever. And you can actually see that one can look and see one doesn't have the chesed, we doesn't have the gevura, we haven't got the middle line, okay? And so what does this build within us? It builds the desire for the Torah. Okay, when we see that we don't have chesed and we don't have gevura and we don't have tiferet, and netzach meaning, something which is permanent. Well, we keep changing, okay? So I haven't got that either, all right? So be able to, persist with something, all right? And so I can see that I don't have these sfirot, okay? But it can increase my longing for them, all right? And being able to say, God, I really haven't got these, but that builds the vessel so that I'm really, really, really waiting and open and desiring the Torah, which we get the opportunity to receive on Shavuot. So I think it's more about building desire, all right? These 7 sfirot, these 49 sfirot, okay? Building desire for the Torah rather than actually attaining sfirot. All right. So the more desire we can build up, the more we can say, listen, I haven't got chesed and I haven't got gevura and I haven't got tiferet. All right. And I really don't know what netzach is, but I would like to know and I would like to be able to serve God. All right. Then I think that actually is the purpose of these days, to increase our longing, increase our desire, so that we will be able to serve God in the aspect of giving, and that we will understand how much we need the Torah, because only somebody who's aware of the Yetzer Hara can actually needs the Torah. There's this wonderful parable that when Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Mount Sinai to receive the Torah, the angels accused, okay? And they complained, and they said, what's this human being doing up here? And they said to God, when you want to give your precious Torah to this mortal, what's he doing here at all? And God said to Moses, answer them. So he answered the angels and he said, well, do you get angry? Do you have forbidden desires? Do you have lusts? Do you have jealousies? No. So you don't need the Torah. It's we who need the Torah because we get all of those things. Okay? So from this, you can see that it's when we become more aware of what we can't do, when we understand how much we need the Torah. And that's the real vessel for the Torah. So building these vessels means building the lax, if you like. As we say, as the sages say, Barati Yetzer Hara, Barati Torah Tavlin. God created the evil inclination, but he created the Torah as its healing spice. So therefore, that the more we're aware of our evil inclination, the more we realize how much we need the healing spice of Torah. Now somebody put something in the chat. Does work of building the vessel have to be through suffering or difficulties as triggers? No, it doesn't, Vita. That's a very good question indeed. Unfortunately, we tend to choose the way of suffering, but it absolutely doesn't need to do that. One of the beauty of learning Torah is that it awakens us to our lacks without us suffering. Okay, one of these pupils once came to Rabbi Ashlag, and he said to him, there is a light in the Torah which brings a person back to good way. But what actually is this light? And Rabbi Ashlag said to him, the whole world thinks that their will to receive for themselves alone is good. What they do for their pride, or what they do for their ego, what they do for their self feels right and good. And they don't realize that, in fact, it's harmful. So he said, what is the will to receive oneself alone? The will to receive oneself alone actually shows us the Torah teaches us, shows us that what everybody else thinks is fine is actually harmful to us. So through the learning of the Torah, we don't actually have to go through suffering and difficulties. Through the learning of the Torah, we can actually open and see, we can just look, it opens us to ourselves. Okay, so we don't actually have to go through suffering and difficulties. We can simply, through the learning of the Torah, connect to that Torah and look at it and learn it, and we say, and I can see something in myself, and then we ask God to help us with it, and we're on the way already. Okay, so the learning of the Torah gets us to the same place quicker, much quicker, by the way, and without, and more consciously, and without all the suffering. That was a great question. Thank you. All right. וזה שכתוב, תבואת הארץ ודאי. That is the produce of the land. So it has to be the produce of the land. So what is the produce of the land? So that's the barley, the first produce. But what is the first produce of the malchut? Okay, is that we need to become aware of our will to receive for ourselves alone. All right, so that's the relationship. With askube, they would be busy offering up the Omer, getting it together, offering it up, and the waving of it. So they would correct it, that they would correct this illumination, they would correct this desire for receiving the light of God, which would be the desire, the original desire of the Malchut is simply to receive without giving. But they said, no, we don't want that. Lo ta'ir ela b'tnufa, that the light should only shine when we're raising up our desire. Instead of trying to pull the light down to us, we are taking our desire and going from below to above, giving it up, giving it back, giving it out. Kashub hu kishua. And in this way, they make that first connection of the Malchut, of our will to receive, B'kesher Rishon Zerampin, with the first connection with the Zerampin HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Shu Sod Kav Emtzei, which is the middle line, Hamatakenet Kav Small, which corrects that will to receive, it corrects that vessel of receiving, B'derech Shalom, in a way of peace, with the right-hand line, which is the desire of giving, She'irak mimata lamala, that it should illuminate only from below to above. So what does that actually mean? There's several stages in bringing through the middle line, okay? And I think that's important to understand. There's different pieces of the Zohar which goes into these stages in quite a lot of depth. But the first and most important bit, okay, is to be able to say no to instant gratification. All right? So the will to receive, our desire to receive for ourselves alone says, I want to receive. And we say, wait a minute, stop. Is this going to bring me into connection with the Creator, or is this going to take me away from it? If it's going to take me away from the Creator connection, let's put that stop. Let's put that barrier there. Let's say no, okay? And the moment we've really said that no to our will to receive for ourselves alone, it gives us a breathing space, okay? It gives us that moment when, I've got free choice again, okay? And then we can actually desire to give instead of to receive, okay? So that's that first moment, is to put that stop there, to say, no, I'm not going to receive, okay? Even though I desire it. And then when we've done that, then we've got that moment to say, I can now give, all right? Okay, so that's how we actually, how that works. It's more than one step, all right? Now, there's lots of different descriptions. This one is described in the connection with the offering of the Omer, okay? All right, so we're not going to just receive the light for ourselves alone. We're going to correct it in correcting the direction of the light. Instead of being like, I want to bring it down, okay, but this time I'm going to take that light and offer it up. And this brings the peace with the middle of the middle line. שעל ידי זה עושה שלום בין הקווים, שהתכללו זה בזה. And in this way makes peace between the desire of giving and the desire of receiving. And that's why שהדין הוא כבר בבחינת השלום עם הימין. That means that this offering of the barley brings about that aspect of peace. All right. אמר קודש בריך הוא, אנא יהיבה לכו לחם מן השמיים, I will give to you bread from heaven. Okay, that's big from above to below. But what you need to do is then to take from your side and offer up the light from below to above. Okay, so God brings us out of Egypt on Seder night. It's light coming from above to below. But like I say, if we don't work to do our work, it will just dissipate. The light will go. Okay, so what we need to do then is to start to work from below to above. Okay, and that is the inner meaning of these days. That the tikkun of the malchut, by offering up this barley, has to be from our work, from our side. Okay. ואז ישפיע הקדוש ברוך הוא לחם מן השמיים. And then God will give us the bread from heaven, shusod ha'at zerampin, which is called the illumination of zerampin, שנקרא שמיים, shusod ha'arat hachasadim, which is the inner meaning of the illumination of the light of chasadim. And in fact, the difference between the mincha of meal offering of the barley, okay, and the meal offering that's offered up on Shavuot, is that the barley barley offering is offered up the beginning of the Omer, and on the 50th day we offer up wheat. Okay, it's a wheat meal offering because wheat is considered food of the human. Okay, ma'achal adam, food of the human. Maze adam, somebody who wants to be adamel elyon, somebody who is in affinity of form with the Creator. Okay, so that's the issue of Shavuot. Kuf Mem Zayin. Where am I? Kuf Mem Zayin. I've got time for Kuf Mem Zayin. Dun, 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 dun. And it goes into now the whole issue of the sotah. Okay, so I think that we've only got 4 minutes left, so I don't think that would be so great. let's just skip to Kuf Mem Tet as a, yeah, that's very, yeah, Kuf Mem Tet. We'll just skip to there, okay? Because we don't have time to do the whole thing. So we'll just skip to the finish. All right? V'da sheva Shabbatot mimot. לבטא דסלקין 7 שבתות אלים, התמל כקדיש להזדווגה בה בכנסת ישראל, ואורייתא התייהיבת, וכדין התעתה מלכה בייחוד השנים, ושתקח אחד לעילה ותתה, וכד התאה מלכה קדישה, ומטה זימנה דאורייתא, כל אינון אילנין דמבקרי אבייהו, סלקין שגרתה, ומאי עמי בשעתא דמלכא תלהון, פתחי ואמרי, השם בשמיים חין כיסו, ומלכותו בכל משלה. השם בשמיים חסדך, וכתיב וכל עצי השדה ממך וכף. Nice. Okay, so this is we have to count 7 complete weeks, Sheva Shabbatot Tzimimot. That is, only when these 7 complete weeks have gone by, Sheva Avru, Sheva Shabbatot Elu, so he said it was 7 times 7, okay? Yavor Melech HaKadosh, will then come the Holy King, Lizdaveg beKnesset Yisrael, to unite with the Knesset Yisrael, okay? Kalidei Mem Tet Sfirot Elu Zerampin, Nivnet Kol Komata. Because through this work of counting the days, okay, then the 49 Sfirot of the Zerampin build up all the vessel, okay? Torah nitna. And the Torah, which is light, is able to be given to the vessel, which is desiring it. You know, a Sfirah, most people think of Sfirot as filled with light. Okay, but in fact, that's not the case. They were filled with light in the Ein Sof. That's where they were filled with light. And when we're dealing now, we're not in the Ein Sof, we're dealing with reality, which is not in the Ein Sof. So those Sfirot are empty vessels, they're empty of the light, but they have a memory of which light they had. Okay, and that little memory is the little sort of like it's called a rishimo, is an impression of the light that it had, and that causes it like to give it the name Sphira, something which is shining. But in fact, it's an empty vessel which remembers the light it once had and longs for it. Okay, so what we're doing is we're building different desires. Okay, different desires. Yes, I would like chesed. Yes, I would like gevura. Yes, I would like tiferet. Okay? And the more I look at these sfirot, the more I realize I don't have them, and the more I want them, then I'm ready to receive the Torah on Shavuot. Okay? ואז מתעטר המלך, זה המפין בייחוד השלם. And then the union of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shekhinah can be complete. ונמצא אחד למעלה ולמטה, and they're one both above and below. וכשנתעורר המלך הקדוש, and when the Holy King is awakened, והגיע הזמן של התורה, and the time of Torah has arrived, כל אלו אילונות המפקירים, פירותיהם מעלים שירה. All these trees which are choosing, which are bringing forth their fruits first, ma'alim shira, raise up song. Somebody put something in the chat. That's nice. Okay, bye, Penny. Oh, what's happened? Did I do something? I don't know what happened. All right. Oh, okay. Right, no, I'm okay then. Right. Mash omrim b'shash luktim aperot, and potchim v'omrim, and what do they say when they gather in the fruits? What's the fruits? Are good deeds. הם פותחים ואומרים, they open and say, השם בשמיים מכין כיסו ומלכותו בכל משלה. God in heaven prepares his throne and his malchut is on rules on everything. What does that mean? The throne is the malchut. In other words, the throne is the vessel of the malchut, and it's built up and prepared through the Zerampin, which is the 49 sfirot, and given to the malchut, okay, the vessel. And so Hashem b'shamayim chasdecha, that from the Zerampin is brought the loving kindness to the malchut. So this is on Shavuot, okay? On the day of Shavuot, when the light and the vessel unite, okay? And then all the trees of the field clap their hands. In other words, the illumination of the malchut, which is called the field, clap hands, meaning that on this zivug, on this union, and that's how we have, and all the trees of the forest unite. All the trees of the forest rejoice. Okay, sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Wonderful. All right, very good. So that was today, and we're dedicating our learning to the Zechut of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, beautiful.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, have a lovely Lag BaOmer and a lovely Shabbat. And Bezrat Hashem, yeah. All right, have a lovely time. Have good Shabbat.
Good Shabbat, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Yeah, it's lovely to see everybody. Lovely to see you, Rita.
Thank you, Adita.
Okay, hi, Lauren. How are you doing? Let me just stop this live stream and things. And what I have to do.